Dear listeners, after nearly a decade after the Hunger Games jump-started the genre, what is YA Dystopia for?
They're meant to inspire a generation of readers and viewers to think about what's wrong in their own world and to fight against it.
Hollywood feels their role is to create a spectacle, not a revolution.
By this makeup line, inspired by the opulent rich people this story was meant to criticize. Imagine if it was your story that was so misunderstood. I just want to know this genre still has good in it, that it can still make a difference.
Welcome to Our Retellings.
Wait, this opening feels like it doesn't match the rest of the podcast.
It doesn't, but A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is coming to theaters.
You're riding a coattail?
We're gonna have fun with this. If you want to inspire people, then it's essential to know what will grab their attention. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to tell old stories in a new way. Let's see how the gang uses their famous imaginations.
These seem like good ideas. But I've seen what Hollywood can do to a good idea.
Fueled by the greedy capitalists these stories offer critique? See how quickly the message of a story can be misinterpreted? I want this genre to hear the voices of a bunch of queer disasters retelling these old stories.
Fuck the AMPTP! Good luck with that strike staying over.
What do you mean?
The ending isn't written yet, and the anticipation has a way of driving people mad.
So I ask you again, dear listeners, what is YA Dystopia for? Welcome to Our Retellings, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new by creating our own. I'm your host, Jasmine Garcia, and joining me today are...
Grady Smithy, and I have no creative introduction.
My name is Callie, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
I'm Sam Marchioni, and for once this is not a Phantom of the Opera thing.
And as you can tell from Callie's little joke there, in honor of the Hunger Games being back in the zeitgeist, as a result of the film adaptation of Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, we decided we were going to basically come up with our own YA dystopia versions of retelling. Which, by the way, this is not like an unheard of subgenre of this already subgenre. Sam, would you say Cinderella is Dead would count as that?
Cinderella is Dead would definitely count as that, although I think one of the more, I don't know if I'd say popular, but definitely one of the more formulaic entries into would be the Lunar Chronicles.
Yeah, which we'll definitely cover at some point for sure. But yeah, that's true. I guess it's YA dystopia, but in space.
I mean, a dystopia can be anywhere, but
of course.
There's a certain aesthetic of the 2010s version.
Yeah. Let's get this show on the road. May the odds be ever in your favor, even though we are not really in favor of joking about what is genuinely a very terrible thing, and Hollywood really needs to get it through their head that, no, the Hunger Games are not fun. That's the point.
I still cringe thinking about the promos, those movies.
Yeah.
The makeup line. Who thought multiple people had to look at that and go, yeah, this is a good
Subway's
idea.
tie-in.
At least that's bread and pita. Like,
okay, but the point is, yes, the way they went about marketing the Hunger Games was always weird. And hopefully, if any of these stories ever become a thing, that does not happen.
Enough about Hunger Games. My pitch involves the Hunger Games, mashed up with Snow White. And thank you for inadvertently giving me the perfect setup, by the way. Yeah, so, I know I've done the Snow White mashed up with thing, but this was the first of the two takes I had on it. That, going back to the thing about big tournament, every year, beautiful young people forced to beat each other and shoot each other into various kinds of pulp. The twist is, I'm also drawing from the old legends about the Winter King, the one who on midwinter is sacrificed so that the land will be able to recover and prosper again. I've got co-protagonist vibe going on here, where half of the story is being told by the point of view of one of this year's contestants, who hates the system, volunteered to spare a sibling from having to go be brutalized and murdered, and is determined
Valid.
to survive as long, because in my take on this whole gladiatorial thing, the longer you manage to get through the thing, the better the district you're from gets treated for that year, because you obviously proved your people more deserving. The winner winds up becoming the new queen or king, depending on the gender of the winner, while the other half of the story is being told from the point of view of the current queen, who's kind of pissed off about the whole, they're going to kill me in about 15 days. I'm not very happy with this. The system needs to be taken down, and is working to manipulate events behind the scenes as best she can to ensure that this year we're not going to have the same basic ritual happening the same basic way. If she's going down, she's taking the entire society with her, is her intention. And the name that I'm going with is, of course, For the Fairest.
Well, of course.
Do you plan to cast Rachel Zegler in it?
I gotta get the thing written first. That she may have retired by the time I would finish that. Not the fastest writer, I have to admit.
Food.
See, that's a joke that works on multiple levels.
Yep, that's a joke that ties into both stories, and we can talk about both of them now.
Fuck the AMPTP. Hey, Jazz, how many pins did you collect? We should, address that.
It was at least 100.
Well, the Entertainment Community Fund still needs help because, they were out of work for 6 months. So, fuck the AMPTP.
Yeah, that is very true. But yeah, okay, that is interesting, Grady. I do have a question though. Wouldn't the whole beating each other up thing kind of hurt the whole fairest thing? Like, someone's gonna get scarred.
Well, it's all about the competition. Like the saying goes, mediocre artists copy, great artists steal. I am trying to be as great an artist on the stuff that I'm just swiping from the basic Hunger Games concept here as I can.
In the words of Anchorman, no touching of the hair or face.
Yeah, the survivor, they have very good reconstructive surgeons.
The Hunger Games has something similar,
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
They gave PETA a whole new leg
PETA
after
a
the
whole
first
ass
one,
new
yeah.
leg.
Very eloquent.
Disability erasure in the movies.
Yeah, so much disability erasure. All right, if there are no further questions, Callie, you're up.
I am pulling from the uglies, and I am pulling from the picture of Dorian Gray.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. So it's more Dorian Gray than anything else because I realized cut the uglies part, because I realized that as much as I wanted to do the body parts thing, I couldn't figure out a way to make it work with Dorian Gray. So we'll just cry. But with Dorian Gray, basically he has used his ability that the portrait has been hidden and he stays young and beautiful forever to kind of slowly start making negotiations as a political leader, working his way up the food chain of politics. And after he became president, he started negotiating with other countries. So it's kind of a combination of Fallout and the picture of Dorian Gray, where he's slowly getting all of the countries into one mass so that he can become the world dictator. And everybody's like, oh my God, this man is perfect. He's wonderful and beautiful, and he's so charming and funny. And oh, no. He is murdering people who do not agree with him. Think Kingsman. You've got Kingsman going on there where he was kidnapping the world leaders who wouldn't help him. And then you've got the Fallout where eventually there's going to be a war for the natural resources that are being absorbed because he's not taking good care of the planet. He's letting people do whatever they want because, well, hey, that's going to get me more power. And ultimately it's going to backfire on him because there's going to be a war for those natural resources.
Interesting. Okay. How does the YA part come in then?
Basically, it's going to be a bunch of teenagers who realize, wait a second, something's weird here. And they're going to realize like that he's not aging. Like they look through all those pictures as he's worked his way up, like they're from where he's from, and they realize like people have been kind of discussing from the beginning like something is weird, but nobody's ever really thought about it because our hometown is seeing the benefits of all this success that he's having because he wants to keep them quiet. But the kids, like the teenagers, are like, huh, this is weird. And they like start looking through their history and they realize that he's got to go
Okay, fair enough.
because the kids notice more than we give them credit for.
That's usually how it works, yeah.
So the kids are going to end up causing World War III.
Well, shame on them.
Yeah, I know. Shame on them for overthrowing a dictator.
I really do love that you came up with a new twist on the Dorian Gray concept here.
And if I may say, Callie, the new body parts thing could just be people trying to look as good as he does.
Yeah, I haven't figured that part out yet, but it could be thrown in eventually if I fully fleshed it out a little bit more. But that's kind of where I'm going with it. Like a little bit of Fallout, a little bit, Dorian Gray. But that is where we're at right now, basically. He is using his ability to stay young and beautiful to be charming and convince all these world leaders to hand over power to create one giant lump of power.
And, I'm sure, like you said, world leaders that don't agree with him or oppose him, I'm sure they get got.
They get got.
Because Callie and I did talk about this a little while before because they needed some help, and I pointed out, listen, Dorian Gray as a politician would be just as bad as pretty much every politician that we despise, except he has the added benefit of, again, being beautiful and charming. And as much as I hate to admit it, there is a very good chance that all of the worst politicians out there would absolutely have more support if they were Hollywood's version of beautiful and charming. And that terrifies me. But alright, if there are no more questions and comments, Sam, I believe you're up next.
I'd like to turn your attention now to the 12 Dancing Princesses, or as this YA retelling will call it, Dance of the Hours. Because this is a time-based dystopia, baby!
Ooh.
No, Justin Timberlake, get out of here. I hate you. Not that kind of time dystopia. Get out.
Time.
If I could turn back time.
Thank you, Cher. Anyway, in the distant future, the world has been divided into 12 time zones, which basically corresponds to the two areas which are 12 hours within each other. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning on one side of the planet, it's 8 o'clock at night on the other side of the planet, that sort of thing. And everybody is ruled by the grand clock of oligarchs in Antarctica, where the time zones all converge. And every 120 years, 12 women are chosen to do the Dance of the Hours. But they must all be in yearly chronological age, and each of them must have been born on the same numerical date, month, time, down to the second.
Editor Jasmine here. I deeply regret the fact that I didn't think to ask, what is this, a world run by the Clock King from Batman? Oh well.
So, our main protagonist, Ashlyn, who is an Italian-American from the 12th zone, which includes among it Boston. Hello. So, Ashlyn is 17 and she was born December 12th at 12:12 p.m., 12 seconds after the minute. Ashlyn is now 17. She has grown up knowing she will be part of the Dance of the Hours, and she is brought into the Grand Clock of Antarctica to begin learning the dance with the 12 other girls who range from 18 to 28. That's the range of these things. And while she's at the Grand Clock learning the dance, she meets her bodyguard, Seb, who is, of course, pining for her because he's our friendly boy next door type.
Aww.
And as the girls go through their training, they realize that this isn't really a normal dance. It's much more strenuous and physical than a dance might be expected to be. And what's more, the Grand Clock is full of rooms they're not allowed to go into. And they're wondering, what is it that they're actually supposed to be doing with this dance? So for part 2, they get brought to the North Pole, where time also converges, and brought down into a bunker. They have 24 days in which they must perform this dance every night. The first night, they find out that the dance is less an actual dance and more a complex escape room that they have to navigate to get to a chamber at the center. In the center of the chamber is Agar, a seemingly ageless young man who continually appeals to them and seems to seduce them. Every morning, the girls come back with their clothes and their shoes shoes in tatters and their energy seeming to be drained. They're trying to make headway, figure out what this is, but when they try to go for help from their bodyguards, those bodyguards start dying. Factions begin to form within the group, and Ashlyn, trying to figure all of this out, turns to Seb not for help, but for information as her co-conspirator. She tries to get close to Agar, and while she does get information, she starts to wonder if maybe there's more to her mysterious puppet master than she originally thought. She does start to learn the secrets of how this bunker works, and passes them along to Seb, who does more research on his own. As she tries to keep it a secret from the other dancers and from Agar, she eventually starts to develop complicated feelings, which are made only more complicated when Seb reveals that the dance is meant to funnel energy through them to Agar, who then redistributes it into the time system that keeps the entire dystopia running.
Oh, shit.
Because, despite being a hot guy who's roughly the same age as them, Agar is a cyborg. And so, for the last 3 nights of the dance, Ashlyn starts to notice that things aren't going as they usually go. Gears stop, trials are seemingly easier, and then on the final night, Seb reveals himself through cloaking technology which he pilfered from the hidden rooms that she wasn't given access to. He breaks Agar out of the system in an attempt to save Ashlyn before the last of their energy can be drained. And while he goes to kill him, Ashlyn stops him, arguing that Agar is just as much a victim of this as they all are. 8 of the other 11 girls immediately start to flee, deciding that they will choose their own path. 3 others choose to throw their lot in with Ashlyn, and we end on a cliffhanger as the bunker starts to collapse around them. Because yeah, I'm sequel baiting y'all bitches!
Oh, shite!
Nice.
What? I think Sam wins.
Out of curiosity, is the part about the chambers they're not allowed to go into a Bluebeard reference, or am I just inferring that?
It's only a Bluebeard reference in so much as it's a don't go in here, but it's more like just the general mark of a dystopia to, restrict information and have all the cool shit kept away.
Nice.
That is a fair point. That is very cool, though. Now, here's my question. Do each of these time-based districts have, specific things, like in Pan Am, or, a thing that people could categorize themselves?
Not exactly, so I got really stuck in this, trying to find out, who was in what regions that I could go for, because, hang on. I still didn't get this all the way where I wanted it to be, but I had a girl from Japan. I had a girl who was part of the Potiguara people, which is located in Brazil. I had a girl from Senegal, one who was a member of the Kanake, which is the indigenous people of the French colony of New Caledonia.
That's so cool.
So what I wanted to do was focus on these girls as trying to hold on to their individuality at a point when time is really all there is. I was kind of inspired by this Tumblr post that's been going around lately talking about the Protestant worth ethic and how that tied into colonialism. The colonizers came to Hawaii and they saw that people were done with their work by noon. And they were like, what? Why are you lazy? And it's no, we did the work. Now we get to enjoy life.
What a concept.
How dare!
I don't want to do the work today.
Sounds
I don't
lovely.
want to do
So,
the work today.
So yeah, the concept I wanted to do is the idea that this dedication to making the most efficient use of your time takes away the chance to be individual, because God knows it has been the bane of my existence.
That is a mood.
Nice.
Big mood.
You're right.
Yep. And I also wanted to do some, I don't know if it's too much of a spoiler, but yeah, there's gonna be polyamory and also support Agar as a poor exploited disabled guy who needs a better system.
We stand.
Yay,
We
goody,
stand.
And I do. All right. Any further thoughts on that before the plot twist?
Sam, you're a fucking genius.
Yeah, if only I were as good at writing as I am at pitching.
I know that feeling so
Big
well.
mood.
Yeah,
I am good at writing, I'm just bad at doing
I feel
writing.
like just about every.
If that makes sense.
like just about every writer, even if they do
Big
genuinely
mood.
love writing, because I know there are some writers that actually hate writing, they just want to get the stuff out. But no, even if you genuinely do love writing, it takes a lot of work and a lot of brain space.
Teenagers, don't feel bad when your writing is hard. And also, look at it when you first start writing as when you first started being a human. When you were a 1-year-old human, you weren't good at humaning. If you've only been writing for 1 year, you're not going to be very good at it. You have to use your time to get better.
Yep, and unfortunately, society is determined to make sure we have as little time for that sort of thing as possible.
Tied that into Sam nicely without intending to, but it worked
It
out
did,
beautifully.
didn't it?
I just wanted to give people a pep
Yep,
talk
and I
because
appreciate
I needed
that,
it too.
Callie.
I'm just so tired.
We're all tired. Yeah.
Tired is the default state, and that's what capitalism wants. Fuck the capitalist. Eat the rich.
Honestly, these rich aren't even worth eating. But anyway, plot twist, folks. I've decided to throw my hat in the ring as well.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yes, so you guys are probably going to be able to guess what this is based off of pretty quickly, but let's see how long it takes anyway.
When we guess, do you want us to shout it out, or should we just let you finish?
Whatever feels more natural.
Okay. You told the ADHD person to do what feels natural.
I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious.
Okay.
Anyway, obviously all of these have inklings of post-apocalypse because that's just the nature of the genre. Mine's probably going to be the one that leans into it the most because this is a post-climate disaster world.
Ooh.
By this point, all we really have are a few little islands and various boats as far as where humanity can stay. Obviously, if you are able to live on these islands, you're probably doing pretty well for yourself. You're able to stay, but most of humanity is on various different types of boats, some more spacious than others, of course. But let's be real, no matter how well off you are as a person, you will deep down know that you're not the ones running the planet anymore. Because as there's been more water, it's become undeniable that there are mermaids.
The Little Mermaid! Of course, I should have realized it as soon as boats, because jazz.
I was getting
am-
Waterworld.
My boat.
I don't know what Waterworld is, but
You're better off not.
okay.
Yes, obviously, any post-climate change world, you are going to be thinking of that, but I'd rather we not think of that as much as we possibly can. Cool.
Mermaids!
Yes.
Splish splash.
And yes. And the thing is, the majority of them are not too thrilled with what humanity did to their waters, even though it's been a number of years since that has all become a moot point. So they have taken to, of course, hunting what is left of humanity down.
Good.
As one does.
Ooh.
And basically siren-songing them to the bottom of the ocean. Yes, Callie, yes. You're
I
very
had
smart.
to. It was right
Yes,
there.
And the thing is, in some of these communities, they have even taken to sacrificing people to it. And that is where we meet our protagonist, unnamed as of yet, ungendered as of yet, in fact. But the point is, this is a young person who, in a rather disproportionate response to whatever crime this community has accused them of, is about to be sacrificed to the local mermaids.
Rude.
That makes it sound like a bad thing.
Well, here's the thing though, because the lines are not as rigid between humanity and merfolk.
Are we going H2O? Are we going H2O here?
Not quite.
Okay.
As time has gone on, evolution has indeed marched on, and there are certain people who have mutations that do allow them to survive underwater. They're not full merfolk as of yet. Think of it as almost like the ending of The Shape of Water, almost. And so, this young person ends up surviving the sacrifice, because while the siren song does affect them, they can in fact survive the drowning. And you would think that, okay, that's fine, but the majority of the merfolk, at least in this kingdom, look down on the mutants, and they end up taking our protagonist prisoner, and basically the mutants in this grand underwater kingdom end up being taken as servants, entertainment, what have you there. And in the midst of their imprisonment, they meet the daughter of the king, in fact. And that brings us to our second protagonist. She's not so sure if humans are so bad, and she can't help but be curious because this is actually one of the first mutants they've had in her lifetime. And basically she starts kind of sneaking off. They learn to communicate with one another properly, and they just kind of start talking about life on what little land is left. And eventually she helps our protagonist escape, and they get rescued by one of the nomadic boats, and that's where we get our second love interest.
Polly.
You don't know. We don't know yet.
I know. I know. I'm just hoping.
We gotta tease him a little. And this is actually a community of mermaid hunters.
That's rude.
And
I do not stand for the slander.
And basically our protagonist needs to decide whether to join the mermaid hunters or find their way back to the underwater kingdom to warn them. And meanwhile, the princess is having plans of her own because she misses the one person she feels she could be herself with. But she may have to find a way to give up her power in order to be with them.
Aww.
And that is where we have our own cliffhanger, because of course this is going to be a trilogy. Of course it is.
Has to be.
That's what these things are.
So you're saying she wants to be where her person is?
Yes.
Where the people are.
All right.
I have no questions,
So
just to
those-
note that you are perfect.
Aw.
I love this concept a lot.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do post-apocalyptic mermaids.
Jazz, it's you.
Yeah, because, with climate change, it just feels like that makes sense, and I'm shocked that it's not used more, to be honest. Like, I know Ice Massacre exists, but that's about the only one I know of.
Perfect. I don't have notes. I rarely have notes for you, but this is
Well, thank
yet
you.
another one of those times where I don't have notes. Just
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But all right, if we don't have any further thoughts there, I think it is time for the superlatives. We will go in order. So Grady's is first. Oh, so Callie basically, instead of just try to beat each other, because while yes, this is riding on the coattails of the Hunger Games, I do not want this to be a fight to the death. We basically give superlatives of it. If you listen to one of our previous episodes, you know what this is all about. We came up with superlatives for each of the pitches. But yeah, no, let's do Grady's.
Most likely to have a crossover fanfiction with Frozen.
Ooh. Yeah, you're not wrong. I
totally
would say
see that.
most likely to have a villain protagonist ship.
most likely to be misunderstood by marketing teams.
Almost certainly. Actually, how old is your protagonist? Not that that's ever stopped
Can't say.
fandom before, but how old is your protagonist?
I hadn't really thought of it beyond late teens, which doesn't rule out a ship
Hero villain
dual
ship.
protagonist
Can-
because the queen is only like a year older in this one.
Oh, okay, yeah,
We're
that's
good.
fine then. Then I am sticking with it. Most likely to have a huge fan base for the hero villain ship.
Definitely most likely to be misunderstood by marketing teams.
Absolutely.
And probably most likely to get prequels.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can find out more about the queen. Yeah, that is a good point. All right. And as for Callie's, most likely to get some Succession fans in on it.
Most likely to have Kylo Ren level villain fuckers.
Why must you insult me, Sam?
I'm not insulting you, I'm insulting the Kylo Ren
Yeah, but that
stands.
means I wrote a Kylo.
Come at me, bitches, I don't
wrote
care.
a Kylo, that means.
Babe, if it's a sad looking
Hey.
white guy, there's gonna be Kylo stands.
I don't get to judge.
Kylo
You're
level
right.
stands.
You really don't. You're a Vampire Diaries fan.
I will sit in my corner and cuddle my sad white boys.
I'm going to go with most likely to have the star of a CW teen drama cast in the leading role.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Now on to Sam's.
Most likely to have at least 5 Tumblr hashtags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there'll be Dance of the Hours, DOTH. That's only 2, but...
Most likely to be loved by Barbie by Barbie animated movie fans.
Oh!
Ooh.
I consider that a compliment.
Interesting.
It is a compliment.
I was going to say most complex world
yeah.
building, and I do
Beautifully
mean that
so.
affectionately.
Oh god, my poor little brain.
Beautifully so. I just was like, it made me think of all the Barbie adaptations, and I was like, yeah, no, but like more complicated.
Yeah, you know what? You watch the Barbie's 12 Dancing Princesses, and you graduate to that. But anyway, I guess I'm last.
I think, Jasmine, you're definitely going to get most likely to be read by Disney adults.
You're not wrong.
Most likely to have fan videos edited to a Disney soundtrack.
Fair.
Most likely to have TikTok cosplayers.
Ooh.
Nice.
Oh.
I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, believe me, there would be so many mermaid designs, obviously.
I wish mine had TikTok cosplayers, because that would be fun.
Wait, oh my god, I just realized my whole clock thing is technically a Catching Fire reference.
Yeah, it is, but again,
I completely forgot about the Catching
I
Fire
mean,
clock.
again-
Yeah, the whole arena was a clock.
yeah, but again, we're riding the Hunger Games' coattails, so whatever.
And
At least we're not keeping people in a zoo.
Look, it was either the time thing, or I ended up doing the Greek 4 elements, and then I have to get all the Avatar fans up my ass.
I Fair
We're
enough.
going with the clock.
No, thank
If
you.
it makes you feel better, I was originally going to basically do Cinderella meets Beauty and the Beast meets the Minotaur, basically.
Okay, we get it. You're a Disney adult, Jazz.
Wow.
And
Rude.
But it's said with love, because I'm one too.
Yeah.
I paid to work there.
You did. Final thoughts.
Young adult dystopian will never die.
I mean, it kind of did. It's just getting resurrected.
Exactly.
Well, that's the cultural cycle.
Yeah, and it's getting shorter and shorter, I guess. Who's got stuff to plug?
Coming soon to a podcast network near you in 2024 is going to be Postcards from Mystic Falls. Riding on the coattails of the Twilight Renaissance, we will be bringing back the CW trilogy of series, a rewatching of The Vampire Diaries, The Originals, and Legacies. Running from 2011 to 2022, it was a series based on a book by L.J. Smith that has been expanded upon into its own universe and changed dramatically, and we'll be discussing a lot of the issues and the plots and some of the different things within that universe. And I look forward to seeing you guys in 2024.
cool.
Whoop, sibling podcast.
Speaking of which, with the end of the strike, hopefully within our lease, we have to wait for the actors to ratify as we're recording this, but fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that I can soon announce the return of 6 Degrees of Star Wars. We will finally be airing our episode of The Menu, and followed by its podcast, and then we will go back to Degree Zeros and actual Star Wars, and I'm so excited to have everybody back to reiterate how literally everything can be connected back to Star Wars, and I'm excited to expand my horizons that way. And also, please continue to donate to the Entertainment Community Fund, since they are 6 months out of work after AMPTP were total assholes to them. And please contact your representatives to advocate for a ceasefire in Gaza and to support the Palestinian people in the continued occupation and attempted genocide upon them.
It's also Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS season at your
Yes.
local theaters. If you go see a production, please feel free to buy merchandise and donate to this great cause that does a lot of good. Please feel free to donate to BCEFA.
Because if there's one thing that the YA dystopia genre was supposed to be teaching us, is how to fight the good fight.
But really all it kind of did was appropriate the good fight from people of color and make it about white people.
I mean, the worst part is, for one of them, technically it really shouldn't have,
Yeah.
but Hollywood gonna Hollywood.
Oh, that's another superlative we should have gone through. Most likely to get whitewashed in adaptation.
Which one?
Mine,
Yes.
probably.
Oh.
Sadly,
Yes.
Except I wouldn't let them. I would make that part of my contract. I'm like, they have very specific ethnicities. You will cast accordingly, or I will go somewhere else.
Fuck yeah.
I will Ursula K. Le Guin this shit in a way she never could.
Nice.
Good. Excellent.
I have a plug that, as usual, is not for a project that I am working on, but something that I just want more people to read / watch / listen to, etc. In this case, it is a novel called Interviewing Leather, The Todd Chapman Interview and Being the Steve, written by Eric Burns-White, edited by Wednesday Burns-White. It is a book set in a world where superheroes and supervillains have existed. Society has gotten used to them. Eric decided that he wanted to really think about what would make somebody become a supervillain, choose that life, stick with that life, what makes them tick. And he wrote a story about a D-list music journalist who is hired to do a freelance interview with an up-and-coming supervillain who goes by the name Leather. He thinks that he's going out there to talk to her for an afternoon. He gets kidnapped for a week and actually gets a chance to really see what's behind the curtain of supervillainy and why someone does this sort of thing and why people would work for someone who is like this. One of the employees is referred to as the Steve. Their job is to be anonymous, stake out the area where the job is going to be done, see if there's any signs of trouble, and then when the job goes off successfully, just vanish anonymously into the night, or if things go badly, they're the ones that call the service and say, hey, I was working this job for this person, you need to send a crew in to clean stuff up at their HQ. And the Steve is introduced in Interviewing Leather, and then when Eric decided to revisit and revise the original story, he wound up writing the story of the Steve who's working that job. And if you love stuff about heroes and villains, or you just like stuff that is written in an interesting manner, it's worth checking out. Necessary disclaimer, I am friends with both of them. They are awesome. I want them to be more successful. That's why I'm plugging this today.
And as always, you can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok under Faye Riviera. You can also find this podcast on Twitter for as long as Twitter lasts anyway, at IER Podcasts. Additionally, we now have Patreon and Ko-Fi pages. You can find them in the links below. If you enjoy what you've been hearing, please consider donating, or at the very least, help spread the word about this podcast. Do whatever you can to help keep this going and help us reach the next chapter of our story, which, speaking of which, we will be covering the 2011 production of Much Ado About Nothing, starring David Tennant and Catherine Tate, in honor of the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, finally reuniting these two actors. Thank you for listening, and remember, stories gain power in each retelling.